What's going on, y'all? Today's guest is Danielle Gray. Danielle is a college student at the University of Florida, and she has already done so much in her career and is such a great example of what you should be doing while you're in college to build your resume. She has already interned for Atlantic Records. She has interned and worked for a music venue in Gainesville, Florida. She has worked for the VIP Nation, which is Live Nation's VIP program. She's also worked for the VIP company CID Entertainment. She has also worked for the massive Broadway musical Hamilton, selling merch for them. She's also been a runner for me at AEG Presents, has worked several shows for me. We've met through CID, working an Imagine Dragons show in Orlando, Florida. And then she also started her own music business club, Gator Music Industry Club. This is such a fun interview. She is wise beyond her age and has so much wisdom to share with students and people that want to be in the music industry. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with the amazing Danielle Gray.
Live the life you love.
Awesome. Well, tell everyone maybe like a quick little elevator pitch version of like about you, what you're currently doing, and how COVID has affected everything that you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm actually a student at the University of Florida. This is my last year, so I'm a senior, and I knew I wanted to get in the industries for a very long time. Once I started high school, I knew I wanted to work in music to some degree. I didn't really know which department, which area. So at the time, like when I was in high school, I was searching jobs and positions at labels to see like what the requirements were, so that when I went into college, I knew kind of, like what experience I needed. And then it came down to applying to, colleges, and I got into UCF and UF. And at the time I was like, I'm dead on for UCF. And then my mom was like, if you go to UCF, I'm going to be very disappointed at you. So I ended up going to UF. And I was very upset because it's not a business school. It's not a music business school at all. Entertainment management, nothing. So yeah, when I came here, I started volunteering at a local venue, just getting any experience I can get. And I remember like over the summer, I was like handing out flyers, and I made it seem like it was such a huge job because it was so important to me. And that just kind of led to different jobs and gigs within the live event space. And then eventually just turned out to, working merchandise for Broadway shows and turning out a major label. And and then COVID kind of hit, and we had to transfer to this whole virtual space, and everyone saw COVID as a huge negative, excuse me, but I saw it as a huge positive because so many people are looking for help now, especially like artists, like doing live streams, virtual events, the digital marketing. So I don't know, I found it as a huge benefit. Like I can work for any company now since I'm home because they're transitioning virtually. And that's kind of what I've been working on, just like my internships. I'm interning at Primary Wave and Jingle Punks this semester.
Okay.
And I created a music industry club on campus at UF, which I run. And I'm also a co-founder of a women's and music organization called Women Power Music. And so those are just kind of things that I've been focusing on since COVID hit.
Awesome. Sounds a lot going on and a long backstory, which is why I wanted you on the podcast. Right? I wanted some students to see like how to build experience, because there's so many people that graduate with zero experience and they think they can get these amazing jobs right out of the gate and then end up not being able to get a job because they haven't interned so it'll take them a couple of years, or they just end up doing something else and they kind of just give up on their dreams. So I love your story, and I'm excited to dive into all the things that you just mentioned and share that with everybody. But I guess, what was the moment in high school where you knew you wanted to go into the music industry?
I think the moment was when, at the time, my cousin was working at a major label.
Okay.
She doesn't work in the music industry right now, or for many years, she hasn't worked in the music industry. And so she would like gift us a lot of concert tickets and meet and greets. And I was like, this is so fun. Like, this is her job. Like, she goes to concerts, so fun. And so it got to the point where I was a student, I couldn't afford concerts. So I was like, why don't I just start working them to get in to see the show? And that's how it started. And then I was like, I kind of really love this. I want to learn more like behind the scenes. Like I was watching a show, and I was always wondering like, what's going on backstage right now? Like I was always wondering that, like who's the people
Nothing
involved?
exciting.
Yeah, nothing exciting.
Now that you know.
Now that I know, yeah. I was like, who is driving those tour buses? Like, where are the tour bus drivers right now? Like, I was always asking these random questions in my head. So that's when I knew. I was like, this has to be for me.
Mm-hmm. When did you start doing things in high school already then to get free into shows, or like when did that start? What were you doing for free for these shows to get free tickets?
Yeah, so for high school, I couldn't find anyone that was like willing to let me work because I was underage.
Mm-hmm.
I was like 17 when I graduated. So by the time I entered college, I was 18. So I started volunteering at a local venue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I started getting free tickets.
What was your conversation with the venue? Like, so if someone wanted to do something similar to what you did, like how'd you get that volunteer opportunity and what did you do for the venue?
Yeah, so at the time, I wasn't at UF yet. I was still home, but I was researching some venues. And for anyone that knows Gainesville, it's very small. We have like 1-2 venues here. So I just sent this like a generic email address that I found on Facebook. And I just sent them an email saying, hey, I'm a student. I'm coming up to Gainesville to start in the summer. I'm really interested about music. I'd love to pick your brain for 15 minutes. It started off as just picking the guy's brain. And he rejected it. He was like, no, but, it's just like, that's not something I really do. And then it eventually led to me asking like, any way I can help out, like volunteer, street team. And he was like, yeah, sure. Like come meet me. I'll give you some flyers to start.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it all started.
And when you pass out these flyers, how did they know you're actually passing them out? Did you have to document anything, or did they kind of just take your word for it?
Yeah, he just took my word for it. Thinking back now, he didn't ask for any documentation. Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. So this is right as you're starting college, right? So your freshman year, you immediately start working for a venue. Now, going back a little, slightly going back a little bit, why did your mom not want you to go to UCF? I'm a little sad about that.
Yeah, so she didn't want me to go to UCF because UF is the better school.
Ooh.
Like it's like the top, I think we're top 8 or something like that. That's the only reason why.
I take offense to that.
I know. I did too. I was like, there's no way I'm going to UF. It's not what I want to do. Like they don't have an entertainment management degree program.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, you just can't pass up this opportunity. Like UF is a better school.
Your mom wants you to get a real job.
Yeah. Fortune 500 company.
Yeah. Well, awesome. And then, okay, so you start at UF, you start getting some experience working at a venue. What was the next thing that you got after the venue? Or while you're at the venue, was there another opportunity that presented itself? Maybe for a paid opportunity?
Yeah, within the first couple weeks of me volunteering at that venue, he asked me, there was like a big show coming. When I say big, for this venue, it's like 300 around there, because that's their capacity, because it's a small venue. And he was like, I need help. This is the night before the event. I need help doing merch. I was like, merchandise? Oh my gosh, I love merchandise myself. I'd love to sell it. So I took the opportunity. It was a paid gig. And so that was my first like opportunity after street teaming. So once I did that, merchandise opportunities came like any other merch gigs that came up. He would just reach out to me to do them.
Awesome. And those were paid, right? For anyone that's listening, if you're like looking for these paid merch opportunities, I don't know what you were paid. Maybe it'd be interesting if it was less than that, but to work merch, like it's about $50 to $100 to work a merch shift. Does that kind of fall into where you were at?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about $50 to $100, right? You show up, an hour? Tell me about, instead of me explaining it, tell me about the whole experience. Like how early do you show up? Who do you check in with? Like what happens when you're selling merch for an artist?
Yeah. So when I found out about this opportunity, I immediately went to a friend of mine, a mentor. His name is James, and he was a tour manager for, at the time, a smaller artist, now gone a little bit bigger. And I told him, I was like, look, I don't look, what's the first thing I need to do? And he gave me this Excel template to use to track all the inventory. It's like count in, count out, price per item. And so that's something that I was prepping for the night before. Like I just didn't want to show up empty handed. I also did some research on the artist too, to kind of see what the demographics were of the audience. And so when I show up, I have my computer in my bag, And I always show up at least 15 minutes before the call because you never know what the traffic, if you're ever going to find like the manager there. And so I ended up just reaching out to my boss, the guy who contacted me to work, and he just directed me to the tour manager because it's a smaller venue. Like normally the tour manager does everything. And then he was like, all right, all the merch is packed in these like big black and yellow bags and boxes. And I just started counting them, and then I hung them up, made a display, and just started selling. And then I count out at the end of the night. I'll count out, and yeah, do my totals, make sure I'm balanced at the end of the night. And if there's any discrepancies, we have to like normally recount, and we find the error. And that's pretty much how it goes.
That's really some really great initiative that you took there, right, with that opportunity, because most tour managers are not going to be very organized, or they're going to be wearing a lot of hats, especially at like the club level. So you came and brought your laptop, you prepped, you did actually some research on the artist beforehand, which is awesome. So you really get to know the audience a little bit before you even get in there. And then prepping that spreadsheet beforehand, that's awesome. You know, did anything stand out to the tour manager? Like they acknowledged anything that you did special that they liked?
Yeah, they've never seen someone bring like that template before, like have a digital Excel sheet. I also sent it to the talent buyer afterwards, who was my boss, and he said the same thing, like, oh, this is great to have. Like, he doesn't really need it, but it's great to have on file. And then for the tour managers, like, oh, great, I don't even need to like recount at the next show because I have all the ending numbers.
Such a good lesson, like trying to figure out ways you can make life easier for the people that you're working with. And you did that by doing the homework, by preparing the spreadsheet, by entering account in and account out. That was so good. I'm sure that stood out. And then what was the next opportunity that you got? Like, I know we met at CID. Did you do some other things in between working for the venue and CID?
I don't remember the exact timeline. I think maybe we did meet first and then I had this other opportunity, but I don't remember the exact timeline. But I remember my next big event was working the BET Hip Hop Awards in Miami, and I was a press escort. So essentially what that means is you go mainly the day before the award shows and prep the red carpet. Sometimes it is the day of. And so I, as a press escort, you get paired with the talent, someone who is attending the show, and you coordinate interviews between them and the media outlets. It's very fast-paced, very high energy, lots of yelling going on for photos, interviews. And it's a lot of communication between you and your client or the talent that you're working with. And so that was the next big opportunity I believe I had either before or right after CID where I met you.
How did that opportunity come about?
Yeah, so I was on Twitter, and I remember I was on the phone with my mentor, James. He was telling me about this opportunity. Like, his very first step in the door was finding something on Twitter. Like, someone was looking for help on Twitter. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just go on Twitter. So I look on Twitter, BET Hip Hop Awards help, and I found someone like this interviewer who was looking for like photography help, or it was like videography, something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to take this. So I send them my resume, send them an email. They didn't get back to me, but like a couple days later, I followed up. They got back to me and they're like, this is great. Can you send a headshot? And for me, it's a little bit out of the blue. Like, I'm still new. So I was like so excited. I'm like, oh my God, this is for my credential. This is awesome. And I sent him my headshot and it was just dead like afterwards. And this is within a week of the show coming up. Now, Gainesville, Miami, it's not like an hour away.
Right.
So I was getting a little bit worried, and I'm like, no, like I need to go to this award show. Like, there's never many awards in Miami, so I need to get this opportunity. So at the time, it was like 2 days prior to the show, and I still couldn't get any contact with this person. So I just started reaching out to random people. I was like searching everywhere for contact at BET, specifically in press and communications. And I luckily like stumbled across this email. I sent her my resume, sent her everything. And I told her, I was like, look, I'm already in Miami. I kind of butchered it a little. I wasn't. I was like, I'm in Miami. You don't have to worry about travel, anything for me. What can I do to help you? And she responds within a minute. This is at like 11 p.m. at night. She's like,
Wow.
someone just bailed. Actually, I can use some help. Here you go. Like, fill this paper out, get it back to me. And so I booked the flight. I booked a red coach bus the next day to head to Miami. And then I worked the show, and I had to lie to my professor. I hope my professor isn't listening to this, but I had to lie to them and say, I had an emergency because I couldn't take an exam. It was all for this event, and that's how it happened.
That's awesome. And then, so a lot of good takeaways here again too, right, for anybody listening. You went on Twitter, so like Twitter search probably, and you search BET Awards help. You could probably even search whatever award show help, volunteer, right, get involved and see if there's ways to help. And then you were super persistent trying to figure out who is a communications or press contact. And that's usually the best ways to go. And you followed up instead of like sending your application and just waiting, which is like the worst thing you can do. Just wait. You got to be persistent. So many good takeaways again from that. I guess before we dive deeper into stuff, like where did you get this kind of like work ethic from? Like, is that something that you learned from your family? Like, where did that come from?
That's a great question. I think it came from, I just always had the mentality, like, in order to work in the music industry, you have to know someone. You have to be like a daughter of someone. You have to be a relative. It's always like a family member that gets you in. And I didn't have that. So I just knew I had to work 13 million times harder in order to get into the system, the industry. And so I think that's where it came from. Like, I just knew, I knew I had to work like triple the amount of work as anyone else because I didn't know anyone in the industry.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know Jim Malley from House of Blues in Orlando, but his advice that he gave on the podcast one time was very similar. Right? He said you have to work the job of 3 or 4 people and make yourself like irreplaceable. And if you're working as the job of 3 or 4 people, then like they can't afford to lose you because you're doing so many things. And if you left, and then you need to hire 3 or 4 people to fill your role. So that's how you can work yourself into raises. That's how you can work yourself into other opportunities. So it's such a great mindset to have. And then CID, when did that come along? Like, how did you learn about CID? Were there other similar VIP type companies that you looked into? Tell me about some of those.
At the time, no. CID was the very first one. I don't remember how I found out about it, like, to be honest, because I remember I was interested in VIP like packages. So I don't remember exactly how I came about it, but I just applied online. Like, the application process is very, very simple. You do that recorded interview, and then you just get accepted, but then you wait. So I remember I got accepted like in August, and then nothing. I'd applied. But it's like that weird thing where you apply, you're accepted, and you get the ambassador position, and then you apply for the concerts within the portal, but then you're not getting accepted because you don't have experience.
Yeah.
It's like, it's such a weird thing. So like it just kept happening where I'd apply, wouldn't get it. And then the Orlando gig came up with Imagine Dragons. I didn't have a car up here either. So I just like hitched a ride with someone. And then the next day, right after Imagine Dragons, was a country show in Jacksonville. So my mom, God bless her heart, she drove up from Palm Beach to Orlando, picked me up, and drove all the way to Jacksonville for these shows.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You just figure out a way to get it done. I love it. Didn't have a guaranteed volunteer opportunity in Miami. Didn't have a ride to Orlando, but you just figure it out and getting it done.
You figure it out. Getting there, I feel like, is the least of my issues. I just need the gig, and I'll find my way there.
I love it. Were there any other of these freelance companies that you worked for? I know which was first, and I want to. So there's an internship we're going to talk about, and there's also a big show that you did merch for. But before those two, did you do any? I don't know if you know what I'm hinting towards, but
yeah.
Before those two, was there anything else that you did, like freelance work-wise, in the music industry?
Yeah, I think a lot of the freelance work was with the VIP merch, VIP and merch. I ended up doing VIP with Future Beat, Live Nation, a few of the other ones. And then I actually ended up getting involved doing artist catering, freelance gigs at, it was Bonnaroo and Music Midtown.
Okay. How'd you get hooked up with that, doing the catering? I
used LinkedIn. I found some catering websites that I probably Googled catering for music festivals, and I found a couple of them. Actually, it was through CID. I was working Okeechobee, and we were in catering, and like I picked up the name of the caterer and I wrote it down, and then I searched the guy on LinkedIn, like the founder, and he like answered my message. I was like, listen, I'm willing to work, test it out, see if that's something I'm interested in. And I ended up doing it for Bonnaroo at first, and then Music Midtown, and I realized right after it was something I did not like, wouldn't want to go back into. So that was another like freelance thing that I did.
So at this point, you're a sophomore in college?
Yeah, like mid-sophomore.
So mid-sophomore, and like look at all the things you've already done in just a year and a half, working BET, working all these shows, volunteering at a venue, and working catering for these major festivals, just by being a go-getter and looking for opportunities, right? So just right there, first year and a half, your resume is already way better than probably average student that graduates from a music business program. So hopefully whoever's listening to this, you guys are learning a lot from her work ethic and your hustle. And then some of the companies that you mentioned, I'll throw that in the show notes as well, along with a link called makingitwithchrisg.com/blog/careers in music. And that's where I have links to CID, FutureBeat, and companies like that for people to check out. But then I guess your next big thing was that Warner, the internship?
Yeah, I believe. No, my next thing was I was working with Hamilton at the time.
Got it. Okay.
Before Warner.
So tell me how you got hooked up with Hamilton and
yeah. So at the time, I remember hearing about this show from people because I was in theater when I was in high school, and I never really got the whole popularity of it, Hamilton. But I was like, okay, I'm here for it. Like, I'm not a big fan, but sure. And then I saw, it was on my Facebook page. Someone, I must have connected, we must have had mutual friends to someone in like Texas, this girl, and she was working the show. And it was like, Hamilton is coming. She was like, Hamilton was in Texas and she was working it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So then I searched to see if Hamilton is coming to Florida at all. And they were coming like Orlando, Tampa, while I was in Gainesville. So I was like, oh, I'll make the drive for it. Let me just see if they're even like going to have people already. Maybe they're already packed. So I reached out to the girl. I'm like, hey, do you think she's like, they're hiring or looking for staff for Florida? And she like reached out to them. And then long story short, sent my resume, did the interview. And so I got the position for Orlando. And so I started working in Orlando on the weekend. So this was like March of 2019. Okay. Yeah. March 2019. Backtrack. This is actually 2018 of December.
Okay.
2018 of December. And yeah, I was a sophomore. I was, and this was actually in Fort Lauderdale, the Broward Theater of Arts. And so I was actually home for the winter break. So it actually worked out perfectly. And so, yeah, that's how the first opportunity with Hamilton came about. And then in March of 2019, they were coming back to Orlando and Tampa. And so they reached out like, hey, do you want to work the Orlando shows? Because I was in Gainesville. It's like an hour and a half drive. And so I spent 3 weeks in a row. I spent all my weekends in Orlando working with the Hamilton show. And then it happened in Tampa, and I loved it.
What'd you do for them?
So this is all merchandise.
Okay. What was different of working merch for an artist at a club to working merch at that level? Like for someone that's doing merch for the first time at that level, what kind of advice could you give them to prepare for that? And what does that entail compared to the smaller scale merch opportunities?
I mean, the volume was insane. Like the volume, I've never seen numbers like that in my life for merchandise only. Like, it was about 5 people working each night, and the lines were like never ending. For the show, I just couldn't believe it. And that's when I realized, like, oh my God, Hamilton is huge. So the best advice I can give is just like, be nice. Like, cause it gets stressful when you're working with so many people and you have people yelling at you, but at the end of the day, just like be nice, and you'll get to them when you get to them, like treat every customer like how you would want to be treated. Don't rush because someone else is, yelling because they're impatient. Just take your time and just be nice. I'd also say make friends with the people at the venue. not just people you're working with, like people at the venue. Yeah.
So make the time to get to know people that are
Mm-hmm.
working there. It's like you're full of wisdom already, full of great tips. Are there any books or anything that you read? I'm still like trying to figure out like where this whole mindset comes from, because like, are there any favorite business books or favorite self-help books or documentaries like that you have?
No.
No.
I've never read a book. Many people have told me to read the How to Get Involved in the Music Industry book. I think it's like by Don.
Oh, everything you need to know
Passion.
about the music
Everything,
business.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've never like
Classic.
fully read it, but I've heard amazing things about it. But yeah, I haven't read anything, watched any documentaries, just
What about music business podcasts?
yours. Yours. But nothing like since freshman year. Just all kind of happened. I don't know why I'm like that. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, it's good. I'm sure it's helping you a lot, right?
Good, but weird.
And then I guess before you did Hamilton, we've crossed paths again, and I was working for AEG and hired you for a runner a few times.
Yeah.
I guess the lesson here for someone that opportunity just came because we had a good conversation when we met at Magic Dragons. I saw how hard you worked, and I think we just like changed contact info, right? And I said, hey, I might be doing some other stuff again. I was just kind of freelancing at the time. I was like, I'll hit you up if I have anything. And then I think it was just a couple months later, I hit you up about working with AEG. Tell me about the experience working with AEG and what you did for me there.
Yeah. So you hit me up a couple times, which I was very fortunate about. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to make every single opportunity because just the locations just didn't align. But I remember one of the gigs I worked was the Vans Warped Tour running position.
Yep.
And what I learned from that is, again, like, it's so stressful, these situations. Vans Warped Tour, everyone knows Vans. It's, you're working for these people who have been around in the industry for so long. I think I was reporting to Mona. I don't know if you remember Mona, but I was reporting to her. And she's like a vet in the industry, but I just try not to let these titles get to me. So she's like, oh, I need you to do this, go out on a run and do this laundry, or, make sure this is done by 3 p.m. It's like, okay, I'll just make sure it's done. I can't overthink like, oh my God, did Mona address it in a tone, or does she think I'm not fit because I'm a young lady in the industry? I think it's just like going in open-minded and a bit positive is like the best advice for those situations, because at the end of the day, when you're in a running position, you can't control the traffic. You can't control what time you end up getting back to some degree. So that's like the best advice I'd give.
Yeah, another really good mindset thing, right? And what were some of the things besides laundry? Like what all were you doing during that day at Warped Tour?
Wow, we're going back a bit.
Just trying to give people the full experience of
yeah,
all the
it was
opportunities that are out
like,
there.
yeah, it was. I remember I drove someone to their house to like pick up a suitcase, because a lot of people were from Orlando. Funny enough, I remember I went to Party City to grab some like decorations for a party, because Orlando was one of like the last stops I think on that tour, or it was one of the first ones. It was a celebration going on. What else? I can't remember. This is a long time ago. But it was a lot of like the basic runs. Like laundry is always going to be like a given. You're probably always going to have to go get food to some degree, but there was a caterer on site. Yeah, I can't remember exactly like the main ones.
It's funny because like you kind of really walked the classic, I guess, path. If I were to create like an ideal path for someone to get experience in the industry, right? First, work for a venue and do whatever you can, like volunteer, work on their street team, just work for free. Then the next trusted job is working merch. Then the next trusted job is probably working VIP, because now you get to go backstage and see some other areas. And then really a runner. And, all those are kind of entry beginning level of the music industry, but like the runner position is a very trusted position. Like I'm not going to call anyone to be a runner, because you're dealing with a tour manager, you're dealing with the artist. And if the tour manager is someone that's extremely difficult, I need someone in there that I know is not going to get mad or like retaliate against the tour manager, because at the end of the day, that's going to come back on me. That's going to come back on the promoter. That's going to go back to the agent and the manager. So it's like, it takes a lot of trust to have someone to be a runner. And the crazy thing is, like, speaking about like the amount of experience that you already had, like 9 times out of 10, I couldn't call you because you weren't 21 yet. And most times as
Yes,
a
I
runner, you have to buy
remember.
alcohol.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you have to buy alcohol as a runner, and it's like
Yes.
I can't hire you as a runner if you can't buy alcohol,
Yeah.
which sucks because I wanted to call you for like almost all of the shows.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember, I don't know if you remember, there was a show at the Plaza, I think it was for like Brian Samuelson or something like that. And I was like all set up to go. And then I was like, wait, I see some alcohol here on the rider. Is that going to be an issue? And you're like, we're going to try to get someone else to go get it. But I couldn't because that's the part of the gig, getting alcohol.
Right.
Yeah. I also remember from Vans Warped Tour, one of the runs I had to do was take someone to the emergency room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was one of the runs I had to do. They like hit their head and they were bleeding in the forehead. That was a fun trip.
That's crazy. So yeah, pretty much anything and everything that comes up, right, could be a run that you do. And then, okay, so you have all this experience. Now you've worked merch for a major Broadway production as well. You've worked for AEG, again, building on your resume. And then how did the opportunity with Warner come about? Is that something you can talk about, of course? Like, if it is, just tell me how that opportunity came about and share anything about the internship that you can share and how to like stand out doing an internship like that.
Yeah. I mean, that opportunity came out. I was fortunate enough because Hamilton is actually, the official Broadway soundtrack is actually signed to Atlantic.
Okay.
Yeah, and so also with alongside Hamilton, I was working for Dear Evan Hansen and Mean Girls, the Broadway tours that were happening here, and those are all signed to Atlantic, like ironically. And so I applied, and on my resume, I put Hamilton, Dear Evan Hansen, and those were like keywords that stuck out. And then another freelance gig that I did was I had a friend who was touring with the artist Bozzy, and he was doing the VIP and the merch for the show. And so I flew out to LA for fun. Like, I'd never been there. I wanted to go. And he was actually there for 2 nights at, I can't remember the venue, but he was there for 2 nights. And he asked me like, hey, do you want to run the merchandise or run the VIP and merch for me that night? And so I helped him for those 2 nights in LA. And that's also like a freelance gig under Warner to an extent, like their artist services program. And so having that on my resume, like, the best help. Massive. Like, you're working directly with their clients and their roster. So, I stuck out with my resume through that and did the interview. And at the time, I was driving to Texas to work with Hamilton. Wow. They offered me like this sales lead position, and I took it. And I was on the way. I remember I was in the dressing room at this thrift store in Orlando. Actually, I was like stopping by there, and I like checked my email. I was like, let me just check my email really quick. And I checked it, and it was like, congratulations for this internship. And I couldn't believe it, but I was like, I still have to go to Texas to work this Hamilton show. So I was in Texas for about like 5-6 weeks working Hamilton, and then I flew to New York to work it with Atlantic. And I mean, how to stick out in Atlantic, the internship is just be proactive. I think go up to people, sit down with them, ask them for 15 minutes of their time, but then also just be friendly. I think just again, it comes down to this whole thing, like, you can't have the whole concept of they're higher than me, they're a VP, I can't approach them like just treat everyone the same to an extent. Of course you have to be polite, and respect their position, but I think that's honestly how you can stick out. It's just taking initiative, being proactive, meeting with people, and just being friendly, like just having genuine connections outside the industry, like talking about their favorite movie or something like that.
Do you remember from the interview or after the interview, like any things that they liked about your experience or about anything that you did well during the interview?
It's a good question. I think for the interview process, I asked them questions like outside of their job. That had nothing to do with Atlantic. And I also did my research to see like what positions they were in prior to being at Atlantic, or wherever they were at, what schools they went to. And I brought that up like subtly into the interview process because I didn't want to come off first off as a stalker, but I also wanted to come off as like I did my research. So I think that's a huge tip, just doing your research, see who's interviewing you, and try to see if there's any connect. Like Like, I feel like people say it all the time, if you see someone that went to UF, you all have to bring that up, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, that's such a good tip. Another one. I love it. I hope people are listening, getting a whole lot of great information from it. And you keep rolling your eyes. I'm blown away. It's awesome.
Really? I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Like,
like it's funny because like a lot of the lessons you're teaching and or sharing, it's you make it look like it's such common sense, and in a way it should be common sense, but those are skills that people like take years to learn and make endless amounts of mistakes. Like, were there any mistakes that you've made along the way that you maybe have learned lessons from?
of course.
Tell me.
Of course. Yes.
It wasn't
Yeah,
all
and I
smooth and
embrace
perfect.
no, exactly. And I embraced my mistakes because why not? Like, one of my mistakes was I was emailing someone about a gig and they weren't answering me. Like, and I thought it was because, I just didn't have experience, or, maybe they're on tour, they're busy, they're not looking at the emails 24/7. And I ended up sending, I guess, too many follow-ups. Like, it was like 2 days and the show was approaching pretty quickly. And also I didn't want the gig to go to someone else. So like every 2 days, I did it twice. I sent a follow-up email. And I remember like on a Saturday night, I got this huge email from from the recruiter, like just bashing me. Like, you cannot send me so many messages. I'm on tour. I'm not looking at my phone 24/7. Like, I would get back to you. And so that like crushed my heart. I remember like I called my mom. I'm like, see, I'm never going to make it. This was in 2017, actually. Yeah. Like right when I graduated high school. And I was just like, I was so pissed. Like, that was like but it happened really early into my career, like 2017, so I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. And you still kept following up with other opportunities, right? Like, what is the right amount of time that you felt like you've learned, and like, when is the right time to follow up? After how long and how often?
Yeah, I think it's funny because everyone has their own time thing. I think it depends. For me, it depends who I'm talking to. Like, if I know them and they didn't answer me, I feel like they know to get back to me. It really depends like who you're speaking to, but I'd say at least a week, like a 7-day period, or 5 days. Gmail is really good because they like send you these like, oh, this was sent 5 days ago. Do you want to follow up? But then also I was talking to my supervisor at my current internship, and she's like, yeah, like follow up every 2 days. So I'm like, whoa, like I don't want a repeat of what happened last time.
Yeah.
So,
and that could also been the person, right? So a week is probably good. I shouldn't wait no more than a week.
Yeah.
2 days might be a little aggressive depending who it is you're messaging, but
right.
Like, it all depends on who you're sending a message to. If it's someone that just has an attitude problem and someone has a short temper, they're probably gonna get annoyed. But if you're emailing someone that's kind and someone that's understands and appreciates the hustle, like what I'll do sometimes if someone follows up like every 2 days, after the third or fourth time, I'm like, hey, got your email, totally appreciate and love the hustle, trust me, I'll be back.
Yeah.
And then I might be a week or a month, but I usually tend to get back eventually. So it all depends. Who are you emailing? Don't tell me the person, but like, what was this for? Was this like a tour manager you were emailing, or?
This was a VIP manager, like a touring manager. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Probably someone's just having a bad week. Probably nothing that you really did wrong. But yeah, like every 3 days, the 7 days, I think is a good time to follow up. And then after Warner, did you have, or I keep saying Warner, you said Atlantic, but Atlantic is owned by Warner, I'm assuming. I don't know which label owns which anymore, but I know most all the bigger labels fall within one of the three majors. After Atlantic, was there another internship that you had?
So after Atlantic, there was not another internship until this past summer.
Okay. What was that?
I was interning at this management company called Hills Artist Management. So some of the clients that they have are Lainey, Sasha Sloan, Joy Aladawkin, and Dax Newman from TikTok.
Okay. What'd you do for them?
A bit smaller. I was just doing like artist management internships. So it wasn't like a typical internship where you're there from like 10 to 4 or 9 to 5. It was more of like, I'm just going to send you something when I need your help. Like more of like the actual real manager experience, because the manager isn't like a 9 to 5 job.
Right.
it's like when something happens, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's more of a lifestyle. And so that's something I really liked about it, is like, it kind of kept you on your toes. Like you didn't know when something was happening, like what you were doing. Every day was different. But I think it opened my eyes to maybe management isn't for me, because I don't really want to make work my life. You know, I want to have a great job, but I don't want to make work my life.
Yeah, that's so important to know as well, right?
Yeah.
And at what point did you start this music business club that you have at UF, and why?
Yeah.
And why start this club?
Yeah. So I started it. I had the idea of starting it November of last year, so around Thanksgiving time, and I was just like, you know what? Like, why not? Like, once I came back from New York, and after I did this internship at Atlantic, I felt very, I don't want to say confident, but it gave me like a huge confident boost. It gave me like wow, like I can actually like really achieve at almost anything if I put my mind to it. And also like moving to New York without knowing anyone, it's just a whole lifestyle change, you know, opens your eyes, opens everything. And then I come back to Gainesville, and the culture here is so different than New York. And so when I was in New York, I just had the mentality, like, I can do whatever I want and no one would care. Like, I can walk down the street half naked, and it's like the norm, you know, like, and so, I was like, you know what, I kind of want to do this club, because this whole industry is like about who you know and like creating relationships, but also it's about learning, what do you want to do? Everyone wants to be working A&R. Everyone wants to be a manager, but what does that even mean? And we have an on-campus record label, you know, helping like local artists, but it just wasn't like, I felt like the business aspect of like the networking relationship side. And so I just went ahead with it, and I was like, you know what, if 4 people show up, great. If 5, great. If not, if no one shows up, then I'll be the only one there. Like, no one needs to know about it. So I did it under the table in January of this year. And luckily enough, I got about like 20 people at our first meeting, 25 at our first meeting. And then throughout the semester, we had about a steady 10 to 15 members at each meeting, and just kind of went with it. And this semester, we officially were registered under UF Students Government, and we're just kind of doing it, just having guest speakers, socials, and like interest groups.
What was the process like of starting a student organization?
The first process was, do you mean like getting it under like student government, or just like in general?
I mean, both in general, and how'd you get under the student government?
Yeah, the first part is figuring out like, what's the purpose of it? You know, is this gonna crash with the student record label, the student government productions? So I think that was like the main thing, figuring out if I should really follow through with it and what the main purpose is. So that's the first step. And then second step is creating a name. Third step, promoting, making sure you're gonna have people show up. And then with student government, getting it officially under theirs, I just had to create like, I had to do an application process. And the main thing really in there is to state my purpose statement and how it's different from the other clubs, and how it's going to help UF students.
Do you remember what you wrote for those?
Yeah. So for the purpose statement, with the help of the VP and the communications director, we came up with that Gator Mike is going to provide educational networking opportunities for the future music business leaders through panels and Q&As.
And then you
So
guys
that was our purpose statement.
And then you guys are organizing these panels and Q&As. You're reaching out to people within the industry that you know and asking them to come be guest speakers?
Yes, 100%.
That's awesome. And what's the reception been like so far since you started the club?
It's been great. Like I said, we had about 20 members last semester. And then this semester, as you can tell, when we had our Zoom session, like 40 members actively coming to each meeting, which to me is amazing. Like, there is a purpose for this, and people are interested in or wanting to learn about the music business.
Crazy thing is, I could have a guest speaker sometimes, and not always, depends on who the speaker is, but I could have a guest speaker come to any of the universities I taught at before, and if it's not required for a class or it's not extra credit, getting 40 people to show up is a lot. It takes a lot, and you guys don't even have a music business program, and 40 people showed up to a Zoom call, which is a really good sign. And I guess what is the next step with this club? Like, I know I've kind of jokingly said you guys should start a music business program at UF, like be the pioneers of it. Like, are there any talks about that? Are you guys like working towards that? What's next for the club? And I know you're about to graduate. So what happens once you graduate?
Yeah, so for the music business program, I do know that one of the music professors in the music school, I do know that he is like working towards creating a music business program. They just opened up the class registration list for next semester, and someone told me that they have like intro to music business on there.
Okay.
So there's no like talks of there's no like set in stone music business program, but more classes are coming out. And so I think that's the first step, you know, before a program is settled. And then for me, once I graduate, you know, yeah, it is my baby. It is something I made, but I want it to be someone else's baby, you know, like let it on to the next generation or what have you. You know, I'll still always be around in case people need help or they need a speaker or someone to speak. But for me, it's just training the next e-board executives to really make sure that it's afloat and is achieving that purpose statement.
Mm-hmm. And it's a good sign you guys have music business classes now, or at least starting one with Intro to Music Business. I think that's how it started at FIU, where I teach as an adjunct. But I think they kind of just started with a few classes. The program is fairly new, and now they have a music business minor that goes as part of the School of Music. But the minor could be students from any program. I have communication students, I have marketing students, I have students from the School of Music. So that's a good sign that you guys have classes within the School of Music now. And then I think the next step will be for them to create a minor in music business, which hopefully comes next.
That'd be great. Yeah, I think minor would be a better step than a major.
Mm-hmm. And then I was going to ask something about the club, and then I spaced because I was just listening. What's some of the feedback from the club so far? Like, what are students saying? Do they feel like they're learning a lot? Are they happy does it exist? Like, what's some of the feedback?
Yeah, some of the feedback has been, oh, I didn't know this existed here at UF, or, oh, how long has this been around? And I think that's a good sign because like I said, we're fairly new, like especially being under registration with student government. But yeah, I mean, the feedback has been great. We are new, so we're still experimenting with, for example, the interest groups that we have going on. And I do want to experiment with the mentorship program. You know, maybe pairing someone with a little bit more experience with a freshman who doesn't have experience. But yeah, I mean, overall, the feedback has been great. And the attendance for the meetings has been amazing. We're trying to, you know, see what kind of areas people are interested in looking or getting into. And then we'll bring in a speaker for that because we want to make it open to everyone.
I love that. And then you have internships right now. What are the internships you're in now?
Yeah, so I'm in a brand partnerships internship at Primary Wave Music. And then I'm also doing a like publishing licensing intern at Jingle Punks.
Okay. What do those two entail?
Yeah, so for the Primary Wave internship, since I'm working in the brand partnerships department, it's a lot of brand research that I'm doing, you know, seeing what kind of brands will work well with our artists, our roster, and creating a lot of one sheets. So I've been developing my skills a lot with like Photoshop and like digital design. And the thing I like about this internship is very hands-on. Like it's like, yeah, I'm an intern, but also I get to sit in almost any meeting as if I'm an employee there, which is great. And then for the Jingle Punks internship, I create like briefs, playlists for all of our clients. And Jingle Punks is like a creative audio agency to an extent. So when you're listening to like the TV or watching TV, like the music that you hear in the shows, that's where people from like ESPN will come to us and be like, I need something to put into the show today or something. Yeah, so it's very different. It's not so much like music business focused, but I really like it. I think it's a whole different side. I get to see kind of like how the royalties come in.
So you're kind of working in music supervision.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
I'll create briefs, and like I'm also kind of like an A&R in a sense where I go through submissions to see which people we should bring on and include in our our jingle player is what we call it.
Explain to everyone listening what a brief is, and then what a brief looks like, and then who are you sending those briefs to? Are you sending those to like publishing companies and music licensing agencies? Like, who are these briefs going to?
Yeah, so we do everything in-house. So I'll create a brief. Let's say sometimes I'll just go through the jingle player and see what kind of music we don't have. Like, for example, with the holidays coming up, I was like, let's create Christmas meets EDM meets hip hop kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would create a brief saying like what kind of music exactly like that. Christmas, hip hop, EDM, something fun, upbeat, beats per minute, 150, 160. Just kind of like the basics of music. But then also, because I'm not a musician, so I don't know like 1/8, 1/4, that kind of music note. And then also show them like references as I want something similar to this, but I don't really like how they included like 2 of the Christmas jingles at the end or something like that. And then also within the brief, I'll include a scene. Like for me, I'll include a scene where I can see this being played in a movie. Like I can see this being played at a party with, college kids or, something like that. But I think it's different for everyone, how they write briefs.
Are you sending those to then the artists under your roster?
No, so we'll send it to like our producers. I'll send it. So I send it to my supervisor first.
Okay.
And then he'll like review it, and then we'll send it to our producers because everything's in house.
Got it. And then the producers that work for you guys, they're the ones creating the jingles or the.
Yeah, they're the ones creating it, and then we just add it to our database.
Very cool. Awesome. And then I don't know how much you know on the copyright side of it, but since the producers are working for you guys, I'm assuming there's no label or co-writers or co-publishers involved. Like all the songs have 100% clearance. Are you familiar with that term, like 100% clearance?
A little bit.
Yeah. Usually when music supervisors are reaching out to like sync licensing agents or publishing companies, they're looking for music that's like 100% cleared, right? So the company that's pitching it to TV show, film, commercial, whatever, or to that music supervisor, they are pitching the music that's already cleared. It's already, they already have the okay from all the co-writers, all the labels, all the publishers that are involved, or if it's just one person, just from that one person. But you have to kind of get 100% clearance before you can pitch a song, because then you can walk into copyright issues when one co-writer that wrote like one line in the song comes along and says, hey, like you guys are using the song. It's,
yeah. Do you mean like from ASCAP and BMI?
Yeah, I mean the songwriters and the publishers are going to be registered with ASCAP and BMI, but you're really getting the clearance from the musicians and the labels directly. And a lot of times when there's like a licensing agent involved or a publishing company, they already know, like they've already done the legwork to get the clearance. So that's why a lot of times these companies won't go to the musicians directly, because it becomes a little bit more of a nightmare, because the musicians are like, don't understand, I guess, what it means to get clearance for the song from everybody and to get that in writing. So a lot of times they're working with licensing companies and publishing companies.
Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool that you guys have producers that can really just they're basically creating music to the briefs, right, to the specs.
Exactly.
And then you guys have original music that they created and you guys can pitch. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then like I said, we'll look through like our submissions and bring on like new people for the team.
So new people, like new producers?
New producers, like just sometimes even just new music to add, like to our jingle player so that other clients can use it in their footage.
Got it. Okay. And then the other internship, again, refresh my memory, was?
Primary Wave.
Primary Wave. And you're doing?
Brand partnerships.
What does that entail?
Yeah, so for that, essentially, I'm doing a lot of brand research, creating one sheet, seeing what kind of brands are going to work well with our artists. If we have like an anniversary coming up, how can we get brands to be involved? Sponsorship opportunities. But yeah, I'd say it's a lot of like research, one sheets. And
creating one sheets for the artists?
No, creating one sheets for specific brand partnerships that, it's like for the artist, but it's more like specific for that brand. Mm-hmm. Like if we're doing a Valentine's Day theme, it's going to be very specific towards that artist in Valentine's Day. So it's not like a general one sheet. And another thing is I'll make decks I'll make presentations for like if we're sitting in a meeting with a brand, I'll create a deck for them to review beforehand.
Got it. So something from that kind of fits the artist with that brand for some specific purpose, whether it's for a specific holiday, whether it's for a specific season, or for a very
Exactly.
specific thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Like custom product creation.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Things
So
like that.
you have a ton of experience in all different areas of the business now. What area do you like the most, and where do you hope to go next?
Yeah, I'd say that's a toughie.
You did mention Spotify where we started recording.
Yeah, I'm a Spotify user, I'll admit. But I mean, I also use Pandora as well. So I'm mixed because sometimes I like listening to like the radios and mixed songs, but yeah, Spotify. I did apply just for their internship program, and for me, I seen some of the experiential marketing campaigns that Spotify has done. For example, the Billie Eilish experience when where her last album just came out. You created this immersive experience for all of her fans to go in. You like smell the room as if it's a song. Like it was crazy. And so that's something that like once I saw that, I was like, oh my god, that's something I really want to do. And so I think for me, getting an internship in streaming, at least at a streaming platform, is something where that's my goal right now.
Okay.
So whether it's like Pandora or Spotify, that's my goal, is get into like a DSP platform.
That'll be for the spring semester that you're trying to.
Spring or summer, yeah. Okay. Whichever they offer, if they offer.
Have you looked into like Deezer or some of the other streaming apps?
I haven't looked into them.
No, so a lot of good ones out there right now. Should definitely check out.
Yeah, I should check them out.
And then, what is your, I guess, career goal? Like, so you're graduating. You're graduating in the summer, you said?
Yeah, this summer.
And then what? What do you want to do? Do you want to stay in Florida? Or are you looking to move to one of the major music markets?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think I'm going to take a break. Like I'm going to be actively looking for a job, but I don't want to pressure myself to get a job right when I graduate. I do want to take a break because once I do accept a job, I'm going to be working the rest of my life. So I want to, experience, maybe travel. Hopefully, we'll see where we're at with the vaccine and stuff. But that's my goal. So my goal is to work probably depending on how I like working at a DSP, is to probably work in experiential marketing. So like creating these immersive events and experiences for fans. That's something that I really like, and that kind of
too.
Yeah, exactly. Experiences. Like people would rather pay money for experiences rather than a product. So yeah, that's where my goal is. But I'm just trying not to pressure myself to getting a job right when I graduate, because life is life.
Yeah. And if you play your cards right, you don't have to work for the rest of your life. Okay.
That's true. That's true.
Teach a lot on podcasts too. I try to get starting to get more into the investing and money stuff. And I mean, if you play your cards right with your money and you're as disciplined with your money as you are with your work, I mean, you can retire early. You can follow the whole FIRE model. What is it? Financially independent, retire early. That's what FIRE stands for.
I like that.
Check out Mr. Money Mustache. It's got some really good info about that stuff. Let me ask you a few fun, like little wrap up questions. What was the first concert that you've been to, or the first memorable concert?
First concert I've been to was a free Jonas Brothers concert in like this parking lot. It was free. We slept on the sidewalk for like 2-3 days to get front row. Skipped school for it. This was like I was in 3rd grade or something. This is a long time ago. That was my first concert.
Was it one of the free tickets that you got from your sister? Was it?
No, it was like a free concert. They like posted, hey, we're gonna be. They were very new at the time, like they were brand new. They're like, hey, we're gonna be playing at this parking lot. Come join us, and then it was packed.
I love it. What is something that you're currently really into that's maybe not music related? It could be TV show, an app, could be an artist, could be exercise, food, whatever. Yeah,
I'd say I'm really into maintaining a good like physical health schedule. Like I guess you can say fitness schedule, but it's just so hard because we're always just sitting down on our computers every day. So I'm trying to take I used to in like August, September, I used to wake up at like 7, go for a run, and then start work at like 9. But now my sleep schedule is all messy. And just trying to like go for walks more, focusing on like mental health and physical health.
It's important. It's very, very important. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Best advice I ever gotten was, I'd say it's from, I've gotten 2 really great pieces of advice. One of them was from my supervisor at Atlantic, and she said, we're not doctors. Like, this is something that her boss told her. It's like, we're not doctors. And it's so simple, like, we're not doctors, but it's a lot, because you can feel like you mess up on an assignment, or you accidentally, you know, put a wrong event in the wrong calendar, and you think like, oh my God, I just ruined everything. But it's fine. Like, we're not doctors, and we're not performing surgery. Like, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's absolutely. I totally
simple,
agree.
but it's a lot.
And I mean, you have quite a bit of experience already in the industry. So I'll ask you this question, which I like to ask. What is something that you like to see change about our industry?
There's a few things.
Tell me.
One, I think every single internship should be paid. I think it's a disadvantage to people who can't afford to like head out to New York on an unpaid internship. So I think every single internship should be paid. Yeah, I also think, and I think we're doing a great job with it already, but like the live event space should have more equal representation for women. But I think we're doing like a better job than we were like years ago with it. But I think off the bat, those are like the 2 top things I can think of.
And that's something I pointed out about your club that I really liked. I like that. I think 40 something students were there.
Yeah.
And just looking at a quick glance at the names, it seemed like almost 80% of them were girls.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Like seeing that.
There's like 5 guys.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like
seeing
opposite. Yeah.
It's great seeing the industry change like that already. Like I hope it changes. And I hope it's not just, you know, marketing jobs and admin jobs or finance jobs. Like I'd love to see like more women in talent buyers and as artist managers and as record label executives. I feel like they're just as capable as, if not more, because music industry doesn't require a degree. And not saying women without a degree are smarter than men without a degree, but women tend to be a lot more responsible. So you have a lot of idiots and jackasses that are working in the music industry. So I completely agree. It's definitely an industry that needs more professionalism since degrees are not required. And
yeah,
I don't know. I just feel like to the most part, it's not, I mean, I'm a guy, I'm not crapping on all the other guys now, but I feel like to the most part, you just see women like have the kind of work ethic you have and more likely to have a good attitude and want to work hard and just do whatever it takes, where guys are going to tend to push back more when you're dealing with authority. But anyways, just it's pretty nice to see it diversify a little bit more at the top too, not just in the marketing and in the finance positions.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. What is something that you would like to see more of in the world, like change about the world?
That's a great question. Hate, I guess. Hate. I feel like there's a lot of hate in the world. But also just like, I feel like less judgment. I feel like you can go out anywhere and someone's just going to judge you. And it's like, why do you care? Like, why do you care what I'm wearing? Or why do you care what color my hair is? Like, I feel like people just need to worry about themselves and not what other people are doing.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah.
Focus on you. And if you're judging others, especially if you're criticizing them online, is probably some deeper issues, right? Something that person probably needs to work on. So it's also like if you're the one that's being judged or attacked, it's almost like you kind of have to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Okay, they're probably going through something that we have absolutely no idea about. So don't take it personal. It's just it is what it is. All right. So before I ask you the last question, here's a fun one. Now, and man, I butchered this last time. So I literally asked the tour manager or the production manager of Alice Cooper this question, and I know it's written wrong on my paper, but the way I've ever written, it's called the Hollywood Vampires, and the original Hollywood Vampires was a drinking club, which included Alice Cooper, Keith Moon of the Who, Ringo Starr, John Lennon. I'm sure butchering someone in here, Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees, but it was basically originally a drinking club before Alice Cooper and Johnny Depp made it a band. And they would just be hanging out in LA together, hiding in bars and being in exclusive areas of bars where they would just hang out and try to get away from the world and just have fun conversations and hang out. So if you were to create your version of the Hollywood vampires, which 3 to 4 people, dead or alive, would be part of your drinking club?
Oh gosh.
Or call it a meditation tea drinking
Well,
club.
I'm 21 now.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. The thing is, I feel like I don't know if I'd want to drink with like people that I admire, like as a musician. I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, I'd probably do maybe like Maddie from the 1975.
Okay.
This is tough. This shouldn't be as tough. Maybe this is tough. I don't know. I don't know. Why is this so tough, Chris?
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, so before I ask you the last question, is there anything else that you want to share with anybody else that's listening? Maybe any kind of last words of wisdom or an ask or experiment you would like them to try?
Yeah, I mean, there's a quote that I go by, and I don't know if anyone has said this before, but it just goes by, don't be an I want, be an I did. And it's just like, if you want to do something, you can do it. Like, there's nothing holding you back. That's what I'd say. Just like, if you want to do it, just do it. You know, if you're sitting in school and you're like, I want to be an artist manager, well, just do it. Like, don't like, what are you waiting for?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, so that's something that I'd share. Is if you want to, just do it.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many things.
Nike, just do it.
Just do it. So many things you can just do right now. Like, you don't have to wait.
Right now.
Want to be an artist manager? Go find a band that needs help, like a local band, and start helping them. And don't even worry about the title. Like, just help them with marketing, help them with merch, help them with whatever, help them promoting their virtual shows. There's so many things you can do right now for free and build experience. So before I ask you the last question I ask everyone, just thanks for coming on the show. Finally, thanks for being patient and for sharing all of your, it's crazy because like you're still very young, and I know you roll your eyes every time when I give you compliments, but you know, you have like years worth of wisdom already. You shared so many great lessons that people read endless amounts of books to learn, or listen to endless amounts of podcasts to learn, and you just make it seem so natural. And I don't know where you're at headwise, like if you're worried about getting a job or what comes next after you graduate, and you know, COVID's still going on. You know, with the experience you already have and that kind of mindset, you are going to be fine. And whatever it is that I can do, hopefully maybe someone's listening to this interview and they're like, wow, I need to hire this girl. Or if there's anything I can do to open doors for you, would be happy to do it. It's been awesome working with you already. The few amount of times that we got to work together, and it's just awesome watching your journey. And I'm excited to see where it goes next and having you on the podcast again to share about that.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for putting this all together, and thanks for having me on your podcast. Again, like I said in our when you were a guest speaker at the Music Industry Club, it's people like you that I look up to, because you're the one providing educational opportunities to the next generation. So thank you.
Oh, well, thanks. I mean, that means a lot too. And I'm pretty tough on myself. I haven't reached a point in my career yet where that I would like to get to. And I'm actually currently writing an article about what happens if you never, quote unquote, make it, right? And how you can find a lot of fulfillment and joy in just teaching and giving back. And you know, like if my big quote unquote break comes, awesome. If it doesn't, but it happens for someone that I got to teach, or someone that even like learned one thing from me, I feel like that's making it too. You know, it's not always about yourself. It's about the things you put in the world. And hopefully this podcast is helping people. And I'm glad that hopefully it helped you as well.
Yes, definitely.
And then the question I ask everyone at the end is, what's your definition of making it?
My definition of making it is just being happy at what job you have. Not feeling pressured to keep striving for more. Like, you feel content with where you're at. And that's the definition of making it for me.